Welcome to the Sweeper Summit Gutter Talk podcast series, the podcast where the street sweeping industry gets real. Each month, we sit down with the people shaping the trade, business owners, manufacturers, industry thought leaders, even municipality decision makers, pushing the work and clean city missions forward. Whether you're running crews, building product, or just getting your business off the ground, this is where the views are exchanged and where learned value gets real. Now, let's get into the conversation.
Hey everybody, Timm Morrison, Sweeper Man. Welcome to another edition of Gutter Talk. Pleased to have our good friend from the great state of Arizona. We got Josh Garrison with us from Sunstate Sweeping. Josh, what's going on? How are you?
I am doing better than I deserve, Tim. And it is so amazing to see your smiling face and to soak in that Sweeper Man energy that you have. Great to see you.
Back at you, brother. And I see the sign on the wall behind you. I'd be remiss if I didn't say Semper Fi. Thank you very much.
Semper Fidelis. I appreciate that.
That's
absolutely.
It,
once a Marine, always a Marine.
Listen, I've got to go back a ways. I first met Josh Garrison at the Sweeper Summit, and Josh and I started conversing in the morning. It was really early in the morning, and Josh asked me a lot of questions, and I finally said, "Where's your sweeping business located?" And Josh said, "I'm not in the sweeping business. I'm here to have a lot of questions answered before I make an investment and get into the business." And I thought to myself, first of all, you had me at hello, but then I thought this guy's brilliant, that you would take the time to investigate, fully understand the business and then invest, then get involved. Talk to somebody who's watching Gutter Talk right now that's thinking about getting involved or just new to the business. What are the basic questions that you asked that helped you on the path that you're on?
It's funny. One of the things I learned in the Marine Corps, the 7 Ps. And if you talk to any of my 4 kids who are all rolling their eyes right now, the 7 Ps, Dad, but proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. And that was it. That was my mindset kind of heading in. I was in the middle of due diligence because I was in the process of buying an existing company. Tim, there are so many questions, and I could list it out for you that are important questions to go and ask. But the general premise of me going to the sweeping conference was to meet other business owners, and just to ask them point blank about their general experiences in the industry. With each relationship that I established that first conference, this is in November of 2024, it led to a whole series of questions. And I didn't walk in with something that was limited, right? I had a set of financial questions, a set of operational questions, but they really started as generic questions, which is, why do I even personally want to be in this business? Is this something that would satisfy me personally? And everybody has a different driver, right? Everybody's getting into a business or expanding into a different business for a different reason. So I have my own personal kind of sets of questions.
What was the morsel though that said to you, "Ooh, sweeping biz, I'm going to look into that"? I mean, what exposed you to the industry that said, "Yeah, that could be a lucrative position"? Now, I will say you're in Arizona, which means in Prescott, Mesa, Scottsdale, there's so much new construction where you're at. You could have trucks busy 24/7. But what was it that first got you going to say, "That's it, sweeping"?
Yeah, well, funny enough, I'm not from Arizona, although I live here. My actual home is in California. I commute every single week here to this job. That's another story in and of itself. But I came from 24 years of corporate America. After I was a Marine officer, went to work for Cisco Systems, and I rose up through the ranks there. So I had a strong corporate background. But for 15 of 24 of those years, my wife and I started and ran a portfolio of small businesses. We had everything from a preschool to a cycling studio. We had a spa. We had a chain of eyelash extension studios. And I often quip with folks. I said, it's amazing what you can do when you work an 80-hour work week. But in those 15 years of having those small businesses, and we successfully exited them. We lived on the East Coast and moved back to California. It really kind of prepared me and gave me that bug where I really want to be a small business owner. So when I retired from Cisco in 2024, it wasn't a question of whether I wanted to be a small business owner again. The question really was, what was the industry? And I walked in with a very wide aperture. I mean, I was in fitness and service, eyelash extensions for gosh sakes. But I went in with very specific parameters in terms of a geography, something I could commute to from California, quite easily. Um, but it was fairly wide in terms of the type of business. And I looked at, I knew more of what I didn't want as opposed to what I did want. But I was looking for a business that was boring, that was service oriented, that was not going to be disrupted by AI, which had just started to really kind of ramp up. That had somewhat high barriers to entry, but I love businesses that have recurring, predictable revenue. And it kind of really narrowed the search. And when the sweeping on a business came up, it really piqued my interest. And when I got into due diligence, it really kind of threw me over the top.
You can see why I love this guy. Smart. Josh Garrison, Sunstate Sweeping. Josh, true or false? Routines are important to be successful.
Oh, absolutely true. Yeah, routines coupled with defined process and accountability.
Okay. Yep.
Throw all three of those in there.
People are creatures of habit. We all get up at the same time. We have that coffee in the same coffee mug every morning. We take that same commute, unless it's you going from California to Arizona. But a morning routine to be a successful individual, especially in business, is important. Take people through a typical morning in Josh Garrison's life, because I got to think that by 8 a.m., you do more than I do in 2.5 days. Because you and I met at like 7 in the morning. You'd already ran 3 miles. You worked out for an hour and a half, and that was your morning routine.
So I wake up somewhere between 4 and 4:30. I come out, I have 1 cup of coffee, catch up on news, text, and anything that happened from the night before. In the apartment that I run here in Phoenix, there's a gym. I'm in that gym by 5 a.m. I'm back up making a protein shake and breakfast. And I'm out the door at about 6, and I'm here inside of the office at probably somewhere around 6:20. Every single morning that I'm here, which is typically Monday through Friday. I will stay some weekends. And each day is a little different. Oftentimes I'm out in the field, visiting with customers, pricing properties, doing things of that nature. But I'm typically going to stick around, and I'm here until the night crew kind of comes in. Mind you, my family's not here with me. When I go home, I go into dad mode. But why I'm here, I wrap the days up somewhere between 7:30 and 8:30. So at night, head back over to the apartment, make myself some dinner, rinse and repeat. It is a very set schedule that I keep. But I work guilt-free. I work a ton of hours guilt-free, by the way, because there is nobody here except for the business.
Right. You talk about going back to 2024 with your introductory. It's pretty cool that how relatively early you've been into the business, not that long, you're still considered a valuable resource and very knowledgeable within the industry. Case in point, I had a member call me, wanted to expand their business. They wanted to get into HOA. And it was funny. The guy said to me, he goes, "Tim, the only thing I know about HOA is how to spell it." I said, "I got a guy, actually 2 guys, you and Mark Carter, Mark at Peloton." But I said, "I got a guy." So I called Josh and I said, "Josh, do me a solid, call a guy, help him out with HOA. I don't know if you remember, you sent me an email an hour later and you said, "What a great guy. I got him set." A week later, he called me up and said, "Tim, I want to thank you and Josh. We just signed our first big HOA contract." 1 week later. So you obviously set him on the right path. Talk to somebody right now watching that maybe wants to expand into HOA, because I certainly view you as, a quality resource for HOA.
So it's the bulk of our business, right? So across 1,200 customers, I'd probably say that 80% of our business are HOAs. Now, bear in mind, I purchased an existing business that had been here since the early 1990s. So it's not like I came in and kind of built all this, but the Sunstate Sweeping has definitely a niche with HOAs. And look, every geography is different. What I will tell you here about Maricopa County and the greater Phoenix area, the 5th largest metro area in the country, they are a gated community as far as the eyes can see. Right? And inside of every one of those gated communities are private HOA maintained roads. again, there are other geographies. I live in California. Yes, there's a lot of those, but there's a lot of geographies across the country that have a lot of public roads, so it doesn't always, it doesn't always translate quite the same way.
Sure.
But for anybody that wants to get, into that business, really needs to study and understand kind of the mindset of an HOA, starting with a property manager that is the interface between, managing the actual property itself and the board of directors that sits on the HOA, but really understanding kind of what makes that HOA tick. It goes back to the 7 Ps, proper prior preparation, becomes extremely, extremely important. And I've learned, and I appreciate your kind words, but to anybody watching this video, because I'm not even 2 years into this thing, I am an absolute neophyte. When I go to the Sweeper Conference and I'm sitting next to Carl Barton, who's been doing this thing for decades upon decades, I learn multiple things every single day that I come in here. So, still learning.
How about digital marketing? I know that when we do some digital marketing calls, there's Josh Garrison always. I mean, you're in your car, I see you on the phone, but you're always paying attention to the algorithms and the digital footprint. How important is that in all business, but right now with sweeping in particular?
Yeah, I think I'm fortunate in the business that I bought here just because it had been so well established and had been around, right? So if you go to a property management company or a commercial property management company, they know our name. So I was very lucky in acquiring a company that actually had this legacy and this reputation, which certainly helped. But I brought with me from owning multiple small businesses, of all which were startups for me, the importance of a multifaceted marketing approach, and of course, digital now sits at the heart of everything.
Yeah.
And it's one thing, again, we have a very well-defined multi-channel marketing strategy, that starts at the website, but of course cuts across multiple social feeds and everything from LinkedIn to social. We don't do the TikTok, Facebook and everything else. But it includes things like digital marketing campaigns through email. And then gets into your traditional forms of marketing, which are extremely important as well. Everything from trade shows to, lunch and learns and customer visits, especially for the larger property management companies. So it is really important to understand that marketing is certainly not a one size fits all, and it is certainly not just it's all about digital. No, it must be, and it has to be multifaceted and driven in a very coordinated, very organized, in a measured way. And it's one of my biggest hot buttons. And I know you might ask me about, advice that I give, but we live in a world filled with data. And if you can't measure it, you can't control it. You certainly can't set a goal and drive an actual result. So marketing is no different than that. You've got to be able to measure it. You've got to be able to set goals and hold yourself accountable.
Well, you're talking to a disc jockey by trade, radio. So I'm organic in my advertising nature, and I believe in direct mail. I believe in radio, TV, but certainly digital at the forefront. Here, you and I are on the internet talking on Gutter Talk. Josh Garrison with Sunstate Sweeping in Arizona. This is just one of the many facets of what digital is doing with all businesses, but now with sweeping. At the Sweeper Summit, we're going to be doing live streaming, from the event itself. We'll have special guest speakers that will be on the internet live. And, I think it's just such an integral part right now, not only to the business in general, but certainly sweeping. And I know that every time I see anything on the net that we're hosting, there's Josh Garrison, and you're sucking up all that knowledge,
I try my best. And again, it's a never ending thing. On the marketing side, I will tell you, because again, I get these conversations with folks. So there is no fire and forget. There is no, I'm going to hire this firm and they're going to go drive it for me. It's real work. And again, it starts with a plan. It starts with an approach. It starts with very stated goals. I'm going to invest this money and I'm going to do these things to achieve this result. And if you're not starting there, I'll be really honest with you, you're wasting money.
Sure.
So
but then you've got to have B, C, and D already in place as a backup to plan A,
Absolutely. right? Go back to the 7 Ps again, but yes, you are
You
correct.
left a few out the last time, though. Josh Garrison with us on Gutter Talk. Josh, before I let you go, a standard question I ask all our guests, and that's give us one piece of advice that somebody has given you along the way, maybe military, that has had a profound impact, not only on you personally, but certainly from a business platform. What one piece of advice that was transformative for you that you could maybe share with everybody right now? What one thing really stands out?
So I look, as a young Marine officer, spending a year in Quantico, Virginia, learning to become an infantry officer, and then going on and spending many years, and having the absolute honor of leading men in some fairly stressful situations in faraway lands. I learned the importance of people. Every organization is built on people. This company is built on people. And if your mindset is not on those individuals that make that organization, that construct that unit, that then functioning as a team go off and help you kind of accomplish that mission, if your focus is not there, you're focused in the wrong place. Absolutely. And if your focus is always on your people, if the first thing you think about when you walk in the office is, how do I make my team successful? Do they have what they need, right? Whether it's direction, whether it's the resources, whether it's the tools, whether it's communication on what's happening and what are we doing and why are we doing it. If you're not thinking that way all the time, I would challenge you as a leader, as a business owner, to kind of rethink your approach. And I rarely run into a business owner that does not understand that, man, my people are my business, not the vehicles, right? It's not the processes. It's not necessarily the customer. It is your people. They're the ones that execute on a day in and day out basis.
So it truly is. You're only as strong as your people, or you're only as strong as your weakest link.
That is correct. And as the leader of an organization, you set that pace. You create that culture. So it is incumbent upon you as a business owner, as the leader, to think that way always.
I'll tell you some great information today. Thank you very, very much for taking time out. You can see why he's one of my favorite people, right? Can't wait to see you. You can see the logo behind me, San Antonio. You're going to be there, right?
Absolutely. I'll be there. Can't wait. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Sweeper Summit 2026. You want to get more information, get registered, get your ticket now. Josh Garrison, Sunstate Sweeping in Arizona, one of my favorite people in the biz and truly in life. I enjoy your company immensely. Thank you, Josh.
Great to see you, Tim.
All right. Next time, Gutter Talk. We'll talk soon. Timm Morrison, Sweeper Man. We'll see you next time.
That's a wrap on this episode of Gutter Talk. If today's conversation gave you something useful, pass it along to someone else in the trade, and make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen. We'll be back next month with another deep dive. Until then, keep cleaning, keep moving, and keep business top of mind.